So in order to show you the migration using Workbench, so what we are going to do now is like we are going to migrate Salesforce components from one org to another org using a tool called as Workbench. So before we do that, so I need two Salesforce orgs in order to do this. So like if someone doesn't have any kind of knowledge on Salesforce, so orgs or organization or account or environment, all of this means the same. So don't get confused if I call an environment as org. So like it can be called as account or organization or environment or orgs. So like I might make use of any of these names. So please don't get confused. So now, so in order to show you this, I will make use of two Salesforce accounts. So I will consider one as dev environment and the other one as some QA environment. Now what I will do is I will create a component in dev environment, and with the help of Workbench, so what I will do is I will migrate or deploy that particular component from dev environment to QA environment. So before we create the component, we should have the environments. So like Salesforce, like for learners or someone who is interested in exploring the features of Salesforce. So Salesforce will provide free accounts. So these accounts are called as developer edition accounts. So free accounts provided by Salesforce are called as developer edition accounts. So this developer edition accounts can be created by typing in developer edition sign up. If you type in developer edition sign up in your browser, or you can simply type in developer edition Salesforce as well. So anything is fine. So when you type in developer edition Salesforce, so you can see a result with the name developer edition sign up. So if you click on this, you will be redirected to a page, so where you will be asked to provide the details, provide your basic details. Like it's a kind of account creation form. So what you can do is like all of these are basic details. Even if you are not working somewhere, you can provide some dummy role here and some dummy company here. So as of now, like I have many orgs, so I'm not going to create any orgs now. uh, I will make use of the existing orgs. So this is a very simple process. You should provide your basic details, and you can click this particular checkbox and click on sign me up. So if you do that, so when you click on sign me up, you will receive an email to the email whichever you provide here. So it's a kind of account verification email. When you click on the link in the email, you will be redirected to a page where you will be asked to set the password as well as a security question. So one thing which you should be aware of while giving the details here is, so username should be in this particular format. So it should be like something at the rate something dot something. So for example, like it should not be equal to email. So it can be anything, but the format of this email should be, so it should be in this particular format, xyz at the rate xyz dot XYZ. So like this XYZ can be anything. And one more thing is, as we will be making use of multiple environments, so in order to differentiate, so one is dev environment and another is QA environment, you can append environment name in the end. Suppose let's assume that you are trying to create an environment for dev, like you are trying to create an environment which you are planning to make use as a dev environment. So you can name it as some .com.dev. And suppose if you are trying to create an environment for QA, so you can append QA in the end. So as we will be creating multiple environments, even when we move on to the next tool, so we will create a couple of additional environments. So that's why append the environment name in the end. So like if you are using it for dev, add dev in the end. If you are using it for QA, add QA in the end. So we will be making use of these orgs for all of the tools whichever we are going to cover. So that's it. So as of now, like I am not going to create any org. I will make use of the two orgs which I have. So after you create the account, so how you can log into a Salesforce developer edition account is by using the URL login.salesforce.com. So if you type in login.salesforce.com, you will be redirected to a page where you will be asked to username, enter username and password. So this username, so like you will give you will give the username yourself at the time of signing up, and the password will be the password which you set. So like let me enter the credentials of my dev account, and I'll click on login. Okay, so now, so this is how a Salesforce account or org looks like. So right now, so the page which you are looking is called as setup homepage. And so like in order to access many features inside the Salesforce org or account, we will frequently come to this particular page. So like for someone who doesn't have any kind of knowledge on Salesforce, so don't worry. So like I will give you some basics. So with the help of that, you can do the things whichever will be done by a person who will be working as a Salesforce DevOps engineer. So for someone who already have knowledge on Salesforce, don't worry if I am covering some simple things for the convenience of others. So now, so right now I am on setup homepage. So this particular page which you are seeing right now will be called as setup homepage. So you can see something called as setup here. So this is called as setup homepage. So you can see setup a home tab. So these things are called as tabs. Home is a tab. Object manager is a tab. So now when you click on object manager, so what happens is all of the objects that are available in this particular org gets displayed. So what happens with Salesforce accounts is, as with Salesforce accounts or Salesforce org or Salesforce platform is, so it is like Salesforce is a cloud CRM platform. So what happens with Salesforce is, whenever you either create a Salesforce account or purchase a Salesforce account, it will come with a lot of pre-built features. So it will come with a lot of pre-built applications. So here, these 9 dots will be called as app launcher. So if you look at here, so there are a few apps already present in this particular org. So what Salesforce has done is like it has analyzed the requirements of certain businesses, and it has like it will provide pre-built applications based on the kind of platform or product whichever you purchase. So generally, like when it comes to Salesforce, you will have something called as Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and Commerce Cloud. So likewise, there are many different clouds available. So like someone, if some company is doing sales business, so what happens is like they will purchase Sales Cloud. So whenever they purchase Sales Cloud, what happens is like they will get a pre-built application which will be suited for running the sales business. So likewise, like it will come up with a lot of pre-built features. So here, forget about those products for now. So like I'm just telling that in order you get some kind of understanding. So here, every Salesforce org will come with a lot of pre-built components. So like simply what you can do is it will come up with a lot of pre-built components. So there will be many types of components in Salesforce. There will be many types of components. Like there are some 400 to 450 different types of components available on Salesforce platform. Now, so object is one such component. So right now, whenever you click on object manager, what happens is like it will display all of the objects that are available in this particular org. So now what I will do is I will create an object in this particular dev org, and with the help of workbench, we will migrate it into QA org. So here, in order to create object, you can generally like we as a release or DevOps engineer, we won't create any components. Developers or administrators will create the components, and they will share the list of components to be migrated to you. You will take care of the migration or deployment. So component creation is not our responsibility. So even if you don't understand why we are creating the component or how we are creating the component, don't worry. So because like it is not our responsibility. But this will be very simple. So like even if you try to understand it, it will be useful for you. So I clicked on create button, and for object name, so I will name it as some VP batch 7. So like you can use any names based on your requirement, but here I'm using some random name. So apart from the name, I am not touching any of the other options that are getting displayed here. in order to avoid confusion. So because like we won't create the objects, and like there will be a specific purpose for each and every option that gets displayed here, but I'm not touching any of those. I just gave a name and I will click on save.
Sai, Raj here, just sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying object and also component. So both are same or different, and how will you identify here in the screen?
Yes, yes. So actually, like component is a generic name. A component is a generic name. Object is one type of component, or object is one kind of component.
Okay,
So,
and how will you identify the custom objects versus standard objects, like which are provided by Salesforce by
so
default?
when it comes to custom objects, what happens is like you can identify it with the help of API name. So for every component whichever you create in Salesforce, there will be two names associated with each component. One will be called as API name, and the other one will be called as label name. So
Okay,
by looking at the API name, you can identify whether it is a standard component or custom component. Not only object. What happens is like for all of the custom components, you will see underscore underscore C as an extension in the API name. But when it comes to standard components, you won't see that underscore underscore C extension.
but API name will be still there even for the standard objects you are trying to say, right?
Yes, it will be there for
Okay.
both standard and custom, but the difference is custom components ends with the underscore underscore C extension.
So that is the mandatory thing for the custom objects creation.
Yeah, so it gets appended automatically.
Naming
Uh,
convention, yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
so that's how the platform is designed.
okay.
Yeah. So here, so one more thing is like in order to avoid, so component is a generic name which I will be used. Like component can be anything. So a component can be object, or a component can be field, or a component can be layout, or a component can be an app created inside Salesforce. That's why, like I said, that there are 400 to 450 types of components. So like each like object is one type, field is one type, layout is one type, app is one type. So likewise, there are many types of components. So that instead of calling it with its type name, so most frequently I will call it as a component. That's it. Now I created an object here with the name VP batch 7. Now, so here, so if you look at here, so there is something called as VP batch 7. And so here, if you look at the URL, so the URL says visualpath hyphen dev. So, or let me show you other way. So if I open the user record with which I have logged into the or, so actually like what I'm trying to do here is like I'm clicking on this doll icon and clicking on the name here. So after clicking on my name, I click on this user detail button. So here, if you look at the username of the user with which I have logged in, so it's sai@visualpath.com. Now, what I will do is I will log into a different Salesforce org which I have, which I will consider as the QA org. So I will log into QA org. Someone has unmuted. Okay. So this or, so if I show you the username of the user, so this is my QAR. So even if you look at the URL, it has some Visualpath 5 hyphen dev. So the other one has a Visualpath hyphen dev. So in QAR, so if I search for VP batch 7, so ideally like we don't have any object with the name VP batch 7. So even though we have something called as demo object VP batch 7, which I created earlier. So we don't have any object with the name VP batch 7 here. Now we will see how we can deploy this VP batch 7 object, deploy or migrate or move. So anything is same, migration or moving or deploying means the same. So we will see how we can migrate this VP batch 7 from dev into QA. This particular object is not available in the QAR. So now let me log out of QAR. So I'm logging out of the QAR. The reason why I'm logging out is uh, at a time you can log into any number of Salesforce orgs in a single browser. But when it comes to Workbench, you at a time you can only log into one Workbench account in a single browser. or you can make use of incognito tabs. But instead of making use of incognito tabs, I will, okay, so let me make use of incognito tab. So in order to log into Workbench account, what you can do is you can type in, you can simply type in Workbench. So this Workbench is a web account which comes integrated with every Salesforce Org account. So if you type in Workbench in browser, so if you look at the first URL, it says workbench.developerforce.com. So I will click on this. So you can log into Workbench account using the same credentials of your Salesforce account. Now I will log into the Workbench account of my dev account. I will click on login with Salesforce and I will enter my dev account credentials here. Okay, so this is how the Workbench tool looks like. Now, in order to migrate components using Workbench, so the first step is you should prepare an XML file which contains the components that needs to be migrated. So in order to prepare this XML file, what you can do is you can make use of earlier. So people used to prepare these XML files manually, but nowadays, there are few extensions available. So with the help of these extensions, you can generate the XML file with the help of the extensions automatically. Now, the extension which you should add to your browser is, so you can go to extensions and type in force.com migration tool package creator. So this is the extension which you should add to your browser. As of now, like it is already added to my browser. That's why I'm seeing remove button here. So if it is not added, so you will see add button here when you type in force.com migration tool package creator. So add this extension. So after adding, the next step is you should click on metadata types and components under info option here. So if you hover your mouse over info, you will see something called as metadata types and components. So when you click on metadata types and components, so because of the extension which you add, so like you will see this section on the left hand side. So just go to metadata types and components without adding the extension. So you will see a different view. So different view in the sense like you won't see this package XML section on the left, and you will see a drop down here instead of search box. As of now, you are seeing a search box here, but instead of that, you will see a drop down. So you can try that. So before adding the extension, check how this metadata types and components of page looks like, and after adding the extension, check how the page looks like. Now I will reset this package. Let me reset this. Okay, so now my requirement is I need to migrate a component whose type is object. So for this, how you might get the request is as we won't be creating the components. So a developer might ask you to migrate. So he might send you an email or a message in some kind of channel saying that migrate below component from dev to QA. So you might get the request in this particular manner for component name. So generally, while sending the request, they will specify the name of the component as well as the type as well. So now let's assume you got the request in this particular manner. Now your requirement is you need to migrate a component whose type is object. So generally, the type of object is not object. So the type of object is custom object. So ideally each type has a unique name associated with it. So the type of the type name of object is custom name. So the type name of field is custom field. Similarly, the type name of an application created inside Salesforce is custom application, and the type name of a button created inside Salesforce is web link. So likewise, each type will have a unique name associated with it. So now, after you deploy certain types of components, so you will get an understanding on how you can identify the exact type name. So here, my requirement is I need to migrate a component whose type is custom object. So here in Workbench, So first you should search with the type of the component which you want to migrate. So here custom object is the type of the component. You can type in the exact name, or you can type in a similar name, so that you can select the exact type from the results. So now custom object is the type of the component which I want to migrate. And so when you click on custom object, now what is happening is it is displaying all of the objects that are available in my dev org. So there are some 308 objects available in my dev org. Now my requirement is I need to migrate this object whose name is VP batch 7. So before coming on to this page, I have reset the package XML. So the XML file does not have any components in it. So now I will select this component. So it's select the component. So with this, what happened is when I selected this, so this XML file is getting updated on the left side. So with I have selected the component, and now I will copy this XML file code on my system. So what I will do is, so I'm creating a XML file on my system. Let me create it in downloads, and I'm pasting the XML code whichever I have copied from the generated by the extension. So here on my system, I created an XML file. So you just create a file with some name, but the extension of that file should be XML. So name followed by .xml. So that is the format how you will create the file. So in this XML file, I pasted the code which got generated because of the extension. So with this, what I have done is I have created the package XML file. The next step is, so first thing is like your package XML, your XML file should contain all of the components whichever you want to migrate. I have selected all of the components which I want to migrate. So there is only one component as of now. So after this, the next step is you should perform something called as retrieve operation. So retrieve operation should be performed on source org. So source org is nothing but the org where your components or changes are available. So now I have already logged into Workbench account of source org. Under migration option here, so there is something called as retrieve. When I click on retrieve, you can see something called as choose file. So for file, I will select the XML file which I have created, and I will click on next. So there are a couple of other options in the previous page. So actually, like what happened here is, so apart from choose file, you have something called as package names and single package. But forget about those options for now. So I have simply selected the file, and I'll click on next, and I'll click on retrieve. So with this, so like you can see the status has succeeded. So what's happening here is like the retrieve operation got succeeded. As a response for retrieve operation, we got a zip file. Now what we did is we have sent a request to the Salesforce server, or something called as metadata API. Otherwise, like simply remember it as we have sent a request to the Salesforce, or asking for the code file or the component file of this particular object, and the server has provided us the component or code file of that particular component whichever we have specified in the XML. So here let me download this zip file which we got as a response. So I have downloaded the zip file. So what this particular zip file will contain is, so if I unzip this, so it has a folder called as unpackaged. Inside unpackaged folder there is a file called as package XML, and inside unpackaged again we have something called as objects folder. So let me open this. So after unzipping, so if I open this folder, the folders present inside unzipped folder, you can see something called as objects folder and package XML file. So this package XML is nothing but the package XML which we selected before sending the retrieve request. And if you look at this object file, so this is nothing but this is the code file of the object which got created. Now whenever you create a component from Salesforce UI, Salesforce will store the details of that particular component in a XML file in its server. So it has stored the object details in this particular manner in the server. So here, if you look at here, you can see the name which we have provided, and so there are other details here as well. This is nothing but this is the code file of the component. And as of now, like what happened is like when we send the request, like we sent a request for the Salesforce, the dev or asking for the code file of this particular object, and we got the code file of that particular object as a response. Now what I will do next is, so we are done with retrieve operation. The next step is you should do something called as deploy operation. So deploy operation should be performed on the target or the org into which you want to migrate your changes or components. So I am logging into my develop QA account here.
Sai, I'm not sure if you're going too fast, but maybe
Mhm.
by a basic question. So
Mhm.
you have done this retrieve operation in the workbench tool, right? Where you have retrieved the component from dev to QA.
No, so like the retrieval operation we have done it on dev only. So like the retrieval operation was done on dev org only. So what we have done is we sent a retrieval request to the server of dev org, and as a response we got a zip file, and that
Zip file.
zip file, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but this workbench tool you're using to migrate the changes from dev to QA,
hmm,
right?
yes, yes, yes,
And we have done that, and again, as a next step, we are retrieving the metadata file. I mean, this object file
yeah. So
from the
don't
Salesforce server.
don't
You are saying,
no. So here what we are doing is, so our changes are present in dev org.
yeah.
So retrieve operation should be performed on dev org. So how I did this is, so I logged into Workbench account of, and after that I sent retrieve request, and after this I downloaded the zip file. So these are done on dev org. So all of these steps are performed on dev org. Now the deploy step should be performed on QA org. So in order to do this, you should log into Workbench account of QA org, and after that you should perform deploy operation on QA org. So in the retrieve operation, nowhere QAR came into picture.
So retrieve is mandatory. You're saying, right?
Yes, yes,
For
it's
the
mandatory.
deployment.
Yes, it's mandatory.
Okay, okay, got it.
So we are done with retrieve operation. So now, so I am logging to my Workbench account of QAR. So we can't log into two Workbench accounts in single browser. That's why like I opened an incognito window. So here I will log into Workbench account of my QAR. Okay, so if you look at the username here, so it is ending with QA. So that means this is my Workbench account of QA org. So here on the target org or the org into which you want to deploy your changes, you should perform the deploy operation. So again, deploy option will be found under migration tab. If you hover your mouse over migration, so you can see deploy option here. So here, what I will do is after clicking on deploy, so I'll click on choose file. For the file, I will select the zip file, which we got as a response for the retrieve operation. Apart from that, so there are few other options available here. Each of these options has a specific purpose, but we will cover the meaning of these options later. For now, forget about these options. I'm not touching any of these options. I have just selected the zip file and I'll click on next. So after this, I will click on deploy. Now, so what happened is like this, if you look at the status, it says succeeded. So the deploy operation got succeeded. And if I go to object manager of my QA, or and if I type in VP, so you can see the object with VP batch 7 now. So it got deployed just now. So this is how you can migrate the components using Workbench. So like in order to migrate the components using Workbench, so first step is you should have the list of components to be migrated. And next is, so let me prepare package XML or prepare XML file. So this XML file, it will be generally called as package XML, package XML file. So, and step 3 is perform retrieve operation. Retrieve operation on source org. Step 4 is perform deploy operation on target org. So these are the steps which you should follow in order to migrate components using Workbench. Next, what I will do is, so like even though we can migrate components using Workbench, so people will not prefer or do the deployments in real-time projects using Workbench, because like it is a kind of unstable tool. So when the number of components increases, so like when the number of components increases, like a tool might get hang, and even like not all of the deploy operations get succeeded. Sometimes because of some reasons the deployments gets failed, and you should like you might be required to fix the deployment failures. And so in such cases, like if you make use of Workbench, like it won't be convenient. And one more thing is, like with the help of Workbench you won't be able to push the application code into version control system. It won't be possible to push the changes into version control system. So that's why like people will not prefer using Workbench in real-time projects. So people will make use of some other kind of tools. So the next tool, which like in order to give you a just like some basic understanding on how the deployment process looks like. So the process will be the same, whatever be the kind of tool whichever we use. So the steps will remain the same, but the way how we do the things gets changed. So like next, what we will do next is like we will start with a tool called as CLI. So CLI is a command line tool. So we will start how we can migrate the components using CLI. After that, so while migrating certain types of components, so there are few rules which you should be kept in mind. So we will see those rules. As of now, I will stop this session here. Like I don't want to discuss more today. So people who have not attended the demo session, you can go through the recording, even though there is nothing much technical in that. And you can go through this session again. And what I want you to do is create two Salesforce accounts and try creating a component and try deploying that particular component from dev org into QA org. So you can do that and come back to the next session. And if you have any questions, you can ask me then. Or otherwise, like I will give you a few minutes. If you have any questions, you can stay back and ask me. Otherwise, you can drop off.